Good evening, faithful. Here we are in the postseason. The 49ers are in the playoffs. We are here on Between Two Beards talking about it, as we always do, celebrating all things 49ers. I'm here as your host, Rob Schuh. That is my co-host, Randon McMahon. Randon, how are you feeling as the Niners prepare to host our division rival Seattle Seahawks at home in Levi Stadium on Saturday for a little wild card weekend action?
Well, this is what you wait 18 weeks for, right?
Yes.
Now, like this is real football. You know, this is where it goes. This
counts.
I understand some franchises that have never won and all this kind of stuff. Just, hey, let's get into the playoffs. That's not the Niners, man. Our season starts Saturday, and let's do this. I'm ready to roll.
I am too. I've been enjoying this ride along the way, but now that we're here in the playoffs, it does ratchet it up to a new freaking level. I want to say thank you to those that are here early in the chat, lively as always. The Stivers Niners 209 show saying, Rob, go Niners, beat the Seahawks, and move on Brock Purdy. It's on fired. It's on fire. It is clearly on fire. Raphael 562 Niners sneakerhead here on the channel. Good evening, Rob, Randon, sneakerheads, and everyone. I love the inclusive messaging. Sean 951 Niners here to say bang bang Niner gang coming in from Mississippi. Sean, good call in, and he's making the prediction. 27-6 in this one, even if the rain is crazy. Dabu Da coming in. He was over on Jack's stream. He's here now. I love it. What up? Good to see you. Devin Euros coming in as a sneakerhead. Rob, this game has me a little worried. I really hope the 49ers are not looking past the Sea Chickens. Feels like a trap game. It is the playoffs, so it's hard to say that, but like super high level take. Is this a fear for you as well, Randon? Are you a little worried that the Niners might overlook their first opponent?
No, this is you don't overlook anybody in the playoffs, right?
I hope that's the case. I hope that's the case. I do think that it tests that limit. I think we'll know right away if the Niners are coming out flat or not. John De La Rosa coming in. Where's the host? The host is here. Never fear, John. Never fear. Sean 951 Niners agrees with you on that one. No such thing as a trap playoff game. We're on a mission. We're hungry. I love it. Absolutely hungry. Man, I'm excited by all the folks coming into the chat. Appreciate all of you here. Spy Nick Danger coming in. Roberto Davis is here. Let's fucking go, Niner faithful. We on our way to number 6. Last show, we may have dropped an excessive number of F-bombs. I know because some of the people that tune in for the professional stream that I do dropped off a little bit. They were like, "Yeah, this is a little much," but we were celebrating. It was a celebratory freaking stream, and yes, please do hit that like button.
I did a podcast with you last week.
I was talking to my buddy about it, and he's like, I love how you predicted how Randon was going to disintegrate during the show. He's like, you were right. I was like, yeah, it was a downhill spiral. It definitely was. Spy Nick Danger, appreciate that. Peter Lee coming in. What's up, Rob and Randon? Can't wait for Saturday. Saw the pics of the red in the end zone. The saloon font is off the chain. When I see that, Randon, when I see that 49ers in the saloon font, it brings back memories of Candlestick Park, and it fires me up. I hope that we can relive that magic of the 80s and early 90s, my friend.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, let us get into this. Although the greatest 49, also a sneakerhead here in the chat saying, hope you guys been good. We have been. We did our last show. We're doing this show. We are loving it. NYCE 1030 in the building. What's up, fellas? Checking in from the ATL. All gas, no brakes. Let's go, Niners. You know we've got the ATL destination in common. That's where Randon and I met up this year. All right, let's get into our topics before we get too swept away by all of those in the chat, which we appreciate, and we will be coming back to your comments. If you've got a topic you want Randon and I to cover, hit me with the @Rob or @Randon, and I will make sure to get to that comment, and do make sure to hit that like button for me. Bosa, the season sack leader. I predicted at the beginning of the year that Bosa was going to have a monster season. That did not come true as far as hitting that 20 sack number. I'm a little bit disappointed by that. Thrilled by the fact that he did lead the league in sack totals for the year. Will that earn him the Defensive Player of the Year award?
It should.
It should.
Like, I mean, I know, like, I got into it with a couple of Cowboys fans about Parsons. I get it; he's a great player, and all that kind of stuff like that. But like, stats are a part of awards. Like, I
Yes.
understand that. I understand that Parsons is a good player; he's affecting the game on the field. But stats are a part of awards. Like, when you only have 6 tackles and you're a linebacker in the final 6 games, like, that's not good. When you only have a sack and a half in the final 6 games, like they were neck and neck midseason in sack. I think he was second to Bosa, right? So, like, that's not good. Like, so I don't think there's anybody that in the NFL that like had a solid season from front to back like Bosa did.
It really is when you look at not just the actual stats that he put up in the sack numbers, but you look at those efficiency numbers, the number of pressures that he had, the way he contributes in the run game. I agree. I think it would be a bit of a travesty if Bosa didn't earn the Defensive Player of the Year award, and it appears that he is on track to do so. When you look at failing to break Aldon Smith's record, which felt very much in reach, right? We had 2 games left. It felt like he was for sure going to hit or exceed Aldon Smith's record. He didn't. He falls a sack shy of that. Are you at all saddened by that? Or conversely, should we be a little bit glad that he didn't set all these records because we're about to pay the man?
You're going to pay the man regardless. Like, Aldon Smith, that whole story with him, he probably was the best pass rusher I've ever seen in his prime. And then he just kind of fell off the deep end there. It would be kind of nice to have, man. It would be kind of nice to have the sack leader be a guy that's on the current team, like, right. Yeah. And going to be a staple on this team going forward. And I obviously Bosa's career is far from over. You're going to have that extra game to help. I think eventually he'll get it done. I don't think, this is going to be the best season that he has, but I think, I would rather have Bosa there. I think it would look brighter on the franchise. Nothing against Aldon Smith and who he is, but, you kind of have that little, the crease to his career, if you will, with the off the field stuff. And it just might look a little better on paper to have Bosa on top of that record board.
That was such a sad story with Aldon Smith. So much talent, so much ability, just an unbelievable talent, and couldn't materialize on the field. And it feels like not polar opposites, because obviously Nick Bosa has a lot of God-given talents himself. And when you look at the level of discipline in some of the stories that are coming out now about Nick Bosa's routines and the way in which he's, in bed by 8:30 and he's watching everything that he freaking eats. And it's all about recovery. When he's watching TV, his legs are in the ice bath. It's nonsense. He's a machine. He's a Terminator that was born and raised and bred to play football. And that's the difference. And it is sad to me to have a player that, had he, I don't know, even half of that discipline, maybe could have been the most special talent the NFL has ever seen. It is also a powerful reminder that the decisions that we make in life have consequences, and it allows us that observe that to sort of grow from Aldon Smith's tragedy that was the end of his career. I will say that I agree. I want Bosa to own all those titles before he leaves. I think you're right that it probably didn't save us much, maybe $500,000 per year. The fact that he didn't get the sack title, that he didn't beat out Michael Strahan for that national sack title as well, saved us a little bit. But man, you're going to have to pay the dude at the top of his field. He is going to absolutely dictate how much money he gets. Want to call out Raphael 562 Niners comment here in the chat. Says the 49ers are undefeated in Levi Stadium in the playoffs, and many people weighing in on the F-bombs. Sean 951 Niners doing it eloquently. Says we're in the fucking playoffs. F-bombs are part of playoffs. Get go. 3 games and see you Chiefs. Revenge. I love it. It fires up Ellis 10. Absolutely. Charles Alt is in agreement. Rob, playoffs. Let's fucking go. It's different when you are in the playoffs. Devin Euros coming in. Gold. Robbie Gold is 100% in the playoffs. Do you think that will continue this year? I do. I think Robbie Gold is a phenomenal kicker under pressure, and the playoffs are a pressure moment. Nobody I'd rather have on the team. You feel pretty good about our special teams? We're going to actually talk about that coming up. You feel pretty good about Robbie Gold?
He might have to kick from a wooden plank floating on the water on Saturday. But yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good about the vet.
Nice. The greatest 49 comes in sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, between missing a game, penalties, and having one game where he didn't register a sack is what hurt. Talking about Bosa. Yes. And not being able to finish out the game against the Cardinals. Yeah, that garbage time is often where you rack up those sacks, and he wasn't able to get it. NYCE 1030, calling that out. Didn't they pull Bosa in the third quarter? Because I don't remember seeing him in the fourth. It was sometime around then. Bullpup 33 here in the chat. Rob, let's go. Quest for 6 in full effect. It's really hard to beat a team 3 times, but we're too talented and with a quarterback with ice in his veins. We're going to be talking about Brock Purdy in a second. All right, we've got one super chat, and then we're on to our next topic. Jaguayo 56 says, Bosa is the rare player who puts winning above all. That's true, man. I was just reading through a text for work today. The 5 dysfunctions of a team, right? When talking about teams in relation to working environments, but it's true for football teams as well. And that first level is trust, right? And there are other elements to it, but this 49ers team has a lot of players who trust that everyone else is going to do their assignment, that trust that everyone else is all about winning, that trust that a guy like Jimmy Ward, the most tenured defensive player on this team, is like, oh, you gave my position to somebody else while I was injured? Yeah, I'll go ahead and play nickel cornerback and get the best 11 men out there on the field. So I do think that there is an attitude of putting winning above all that is throughout this team in a way that you rarely see within the NFL. Is that a fair statement in your book, Randon?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had a quarter of the discipline that Bosa does, man. There's zero cheat days for Nick Bosa. I mean, he's just a freak. Like you said, going to bed at 8:30. He's already watching film of the game he just played in while sitting in an ice bath. And like he's like, yeah, I'll watch a show. Like that's his guilty pleasure, a show for 45 minutes. Like,
and it's probably a 30-minute show, right?
Yeah. So like it's just nuts. And like you look at it, I think a lot of people think he's a robot and like he doesn't really have a lot of personality on the podium. But when he was mic'd up, I thought he was quite hilarious. I think a lot of players kind of admire him, the fact that he got the seat because he leads by example. And I think maybe he's a little bit underrated as a funny locker room guy. And I think most vets appreciate a guy that's just going to come in, especially at his young age. And Nick Bosa, you don't have to worry about him ever. Handling his business. Yeah,
absolutely. And you see it. I think it's just that he doesn't show us that side, because you see the way the guys in the locker room feel about him. You see him with the celebrations on the field. You see him, wrap his arms around players in the locker room that are a little bit more quiet, like Willis. You have a couple of instances where you get glimpses into the other side of Bosa, but I agree. The one that we see at the podium on a regular basis, a little more of Robo Bosa, and clearly crazy the way in which he's preparing. Roberto Davis coming in to ask us a question here. I want to bring this one up before we get to that next topic of the all-pro players for the 49ers. Coming in to say, Rob, do you think the Niners will go back to the outside zone with Elijah Mitchell? He can reach the edge. I do believe that having Elijah Mitchell back will allow us to accomplish a couple of things. I would expect us to take advantage of his speed, his ability to hit the edge, and I would hope that we're able to see a pretty healthy mix favoring Christian McCaffrey, I would guess by like a 65-35 ratio in there. But yes, I absolutely expect to see Elijah Mitchell, and I would expect him to see him going around the edge. Randon, thoughts on that?
There's going to be zero pulling of whatever, like he's going to throw everything out there. Shanahan's going to do everything he can. If the outside zones is cooking, you go with that. If it's inside zone, if it's going to be screens, whatever, however we're beating Seattle, I mean, you continue doing it. I think he does kind of lend that. You also saw McCaffrey have a little extra gear in some games, but I think you're going to see a lot of Elijah Mitchell in this game, especially with the weather, which we'll talk about. It's going to be a mutter type game, and I think he has the legs for it.
I agree. It is going to be a mutter type of game. It helps to have a couple of backs to be able to lean on in that one. All right, I lied. One more question before we get to the next topic. Sean 9519ers coming in. Serious question. Given the stars on our team who haven't been paid, what's the window here with new money coming in salary cap? Like Pete said, we're loaded, a juggernaut. Let me know your thoughts. You've got to look at the length of rookie contracts. I think that window is as long as we have both of our quarterbacks under contract before needing to pay them, because we have a lot of rookies right now on their first or second year of their deals. A lot of players that have already gotten paid, Bosa and a few more that are in line to get paid. But once you get down the road 3 years, I think that with today's NFL, you're never looking at a window that's more than a 4-year window. You might renew that window. You might continue to make phenomenal moves. And I have a lot of faith in John Lynch, Adam Peters, if John Lynch decides to go back into the booth. But I think we need to make another series of moves before I would open that window once again. So right now, I feel like we are in the midst of it, and I would give us another 3 years on this window right now.
Yeah, you have like you said, the two quarterbacks there. I think it'll depend on how much the salary cap goes up.
Yes.
But like I've been saying, you can't pay everybody, right?
No.
And, our Ayuk's 1,000-yard receiver. Like if he's a true, like I think somebody did a comparison. If he got the same amount of targets that, his stats per target versus Justin Jefferson, like they would have had almost similar seasons if he got a target as much as Justin Jefferson, right? But are you going to pay him as much to be essentially the third target, maybe the fourth target on the team? Probably not, right? You're not going to be able to. Like, is he going to want to stay after his 5th-year option? Is he going to want to stay a Niner or is he going to want to go get his bag somewhere else because he know that another team could pay him that kind of money, right? Like, so it's always about value here. And I think that a lot of people they don't recognize, the value of your draft picks because you're getting the most production for the least amount of money at that point, and so I think that players like Mitchell, who are going to have 2 more years under a rookie deal, allow you to have Christian McCaffrey, Banks, and Burford, right? Having 2 guys in the center there because, hey, we're going to have to pay a tackle too. Like you're going to either, whether it's McGlinchey or somebody else, you're going to have to pay a right tackle, right? Are you really going to bring in a rookie 2nd or 3rd round pick to play tackle at that point? Are you moving Burford over and drafting another guard? So I think there's going to be a lot of money shuffling around here. Do they re-sign Jimmy Ward? Like, is Jimmy Ward going to want 5, 6, 7 million? Do you think really at that point, do they go that route for a nickel corner, or do they say, hey, we're going to go with somebody else next year? Like, there's a lot of decisions that need to be made.
Right. Jimmy Ward, Mike McGlinchey. Absolutely. Jason Lewis, sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in to agree, right? Saying only $10 million a year next year in the quarterback room with Purdy and Trey. You restructure a few current deals. You keep that window open for 2 to 3 years with most of the current roster. I agree with that. I see our window right now as being an additional 3 years. I do want to layer in, though, if we go ahead and win it all during that window, now all of a sudden you ratchet up what some of those role players are going to get paid elsewhere. Because once you have that ring as a free agent, you get just a little bit more coin. You're coming from the Super Bowl contending team. Typically, you get a little bit of that bag. That may eat into our ability to keep it all together. I lied again because it's super chat. Super chats always come over everything else. They go over. Not what I just said a moment ago. Devin coming in, he says, my wife is a Packers fan, and she hates how excited I get when the 49ers are rolling. She must not be happy right now. She says she won't talk football with me sometimes, and I can't help it. Red and gold till I'm dead and cold. Let's go, 49ers. Devin, that sounds like just the cost of doing business, because I don't think you're changing. I think you are going to continue to bleed red and gold until you are dead and cold. And I'm going to guess that's going to continue to rub her the wrong way. Maybe when one of the two teams is out of contention, it gets a little bit easier.
It's a quiet household, which maybe he might like. I don't know.
Could be a good thing. Hey, like I said, the super chats always take precedence. Always appreciate them. Devin, thank you for that. Beast Mode Gaming, thank you for this. Also a sneakerhead here on the channel, just like Devin, says, damn, paying up. Damn Seahawks, shut out. Love you always, Kevin. Love, Dad. I think this is an official pay up for the $20 wager. This is the actual dropping the coin right now. I will Venmo that right on over to Randon so that he gets paid out of this. Absolutely appreciate the fact that you put that there. All right, what's up? Coming in, someone made a bet. Remind me, do you remember what the bet was for, Randon? How did you earn this $20?
Seahawks going over 8 wins.
Ooh, Seahawks over 8 wins has been paid, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's talk a little bit about this All-Pro. Obviously, we got 4 first-team All-Pro players as voted on by the players. Kyle Juszczyk coming out and saying, hey, other than the top 100 NFL list, this is the biggest honor of my career. And I think it comes from that fact that his peers telling him that he's phenomenal. It's not the Associated Press. It's not the fans. It is players within the NFL, the guys that he goes out there and bleeds with on the field. You have Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Trent Williams, and Kyle Juszczyk. Obviously needed to be celebrated, obviously needed to be called out. Do you believe that anyone was snubbed in this list? And what's your thought of the 49ers landing 4 players, 2 on offense, 2 on defense, on the All-Pro player list as voted by the players?
First off, how did Aaron Donald make this list? Didn't he play like 2 games this season? Like, what is going on there? Like,
that feels like just a nod, tip of the cap, like respect for you being one of the greatest, even though you didn't do it this year.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jerry Rice, All-Pro, first team All-Pro. Thank you for all the work that you did. No, I think all well deserved. I mean, Trent Williams is the best tackle still in the game.
Yes.
Kyle Juszczyk is the only fullback, so
he's the only one. And they were like, "Who's that guy? I can't spell the last name. Yeah, okay, it starts with a J."
Yeah. And so Bosa having I think a defensive player of the year type season. I think the nod that goes to it is after having a little bit of a down year last year for him, at least, or his standards, was Fred Warner getting the nod there amongst his peers, being one of the best in the game to play that position. He is flying all over the field. He's quarterbacking the best defense in football. I think it's very well that he got a first-team All-Pro bid there, and congratulations to him. I think the only snub maybe because the picks weren't there really was Charvarius Ward. I mean, just him being a lockdown type guy.
That's a great call out.
I think he was a lockdown type guy. He's always been playing against the number one on the other side there. I mean, he doesn't really get a lot of pub because, teams, it's almost like the Richard Sherman treatment, right? Like teams always targeted the other corner because he was the best corner on the field.
Right.
And when you have Lenore on the other side, like he's going to get targeted over 10 times a game because who are you going to rather throw to, him or Charvarius Ward? But I think though, just the way he plays, the QBR when thrown against him, I think was like one of the top 5 in the league this year, if I remember correctly. So I think he's probably one of the biggest snubs there as far as for the All-Pro.
I think that's a great call out. And it is because of the interceptions, right? You talked about it earlier. It's a stats league, and I get that. The stats are flashy. But when you look at what Mooney Ward has been able to do against amazing wide receivers this season, we're going to get to see it again on Saturday. He really is deserving of that recognition, just didn't have those stats that would bring home the award. And then in the chat, we do have folks, Jason Lewis, sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in to say, hey, Christian McCaffrey got snubbed for the Pro Bowl, and it's a snub here as well. The greatest 49, also a sneakerhead, agreeing about CMC. This one feels like a little bit more of a snub than the Pro Bowl because now all the stats are in, and now you get to see the change to the 49ers offense that occurred when Christian McCaffrey arrived. So I would agree that this one feels like a slight snub, and I do hope that he internalizes that pain and that anguish and turns it into more hatred on the field because he seems to be good at doing that, and I'm going to take it. Raphael 5629ers asking if I'm going to be there.
Still had a great season. Josh Jacobs had a great season.
Great season. Phenomenal season. No question about it.
Rushing title. I think he had 1,700 yards, like on a really bad team. Like, yeah,
that's something to marvel at. No doubt about it. Raphael 562 Niners. I am still weighing this option. I'm still looking at flights, rental car, and ticket. I was thinking, hey, if I can keep that under $1,000, then I can make it down for the game. Fly in same day, drive down, drive back to SFO, back to Portland. Boom, long day, but I'd be there for it. It's a tough game for me to decide that on. Randon, let me ask your opinion here. My theory of not going is this is one of those games where if we lose it, it's going to be a huge heartbreaker. Like it's going to devastate a lot of 49ers fans, myself included. The last time we played Seattle was January 2014. I remember leaving that game fairly dejected. That was a pretty painful one. But if we win, it's not going to feel like, oh, sweet release. We have knocked the Seattle Seahawks out of the playoffs. No, it's going to be like, well, we did what we were supposed to do. So is that enough? Here's the big question. If we were to win it all, would I want to say to myself, I was at all of the playoff games? That's the question.
Well, I don't know your pocketbook, Rob. So if you want to know that how that feels, then do that. I just think if you're going to pick one game, I do think they beat the Seahawks. It's going to be downpouring there by California standards. You're going to be sitting in the rain the whole time, which might be fun for you. It's not fun for me. So I think you probably maybe postpone it and go to another one. But if you want to say, hey, like I went to every single one, but if you did that, you'd have to cap it off with the Super Bowl. And then
there's no doubt. If we make it to the Super Bowl, I've been at the last two. I will most definitely be at this one.
Well, I mean, hey, like I said, I don't know your pocketbook, Rob. If you want to go for it, man, go for it.
Appreciate that. That's solid advice. The dollar amount is the big key. I mean, it's sad how much coin had to be dropped on the Raiders game. That's what really ate into this ability, was deciding to sit at the 50-yard line for that game, Randon.
Yeah, you paid up for that one. So much for waiting till the last minute to get a cheap ticket there.
I mean, I saved a bunch, but still ended up spending a boatload.
I just think, if you're going to go for it, go for it. I mean, who am I to tell a man how to spend his money, man? It's your memories.
Dig it. I dig it, brother. Devin coming in with the super chat. To Van the man, my son is a Lions fan, so he loved Week 18. Now he is rooting for our 49ers. I got to say, I've got an Arizona Cardinals fan that is now rooting for the San Francisco 49ers. We're bringing them all on board. Hey, just come on to the 49ers wagon. We got room. It's the Brock Purdy show. It's exciting. Number one defense. A lot of things to watch. We welcome all of you. Josh Cook coming in with the comment. Rob Schuh, sorry, I hit send too fast. I was going to say, unless it's a monsoon like week one. That's a follow-up here. Says, I honestly don't see how the rain can be a disadvantage unless it's a monsoon like week one. I don't think it's going to be that. I think it is going to be less than a monsoon. That's what I'm hoping, at least. All right. We're finally getting into more topics, but our next topic is exactly what they're talking about. It's the rain, Randon. So we're back to what we just read in that comment. How does this shake out for you? Obviously, the Seattle Seahawks are from Seattle. It rains quite a bit in Seattle, but they play on turf. And Jack Hammer on his program was just on there a moment ago, was actually giving the nod to the San Francisco 49ers, as he believes a team that plays on grass has the advantage when it comes to slipping and sliding around when it starts to rain. My thought is, hey, first playoff game for Brock Purdy. Rain is not a common thing in California. I think this tightens the game and makes it closer, thus being an advantage for Seattle. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think it does. You're looking at the offense is predicated on a lot of skill players. Now, granted, you can do a lot more short passes and dink and dunks and let them still try to make moves, but you're not going to be as electric in the rain as you are on normal days. It does, I think, mitigate I think it closens the game, but it also hurts the Seahawks, the fact that they like to throw the deep ball. They have two wide receivers that like to take it downfield, and not like you can't throw the ball in the rain. But if it gets up there, it kind of limits how many shots that you can take there. It makes it a running game. They do have Kenneth Walker, but I think with our Hydra, if you will, the three-headed back that we have, you could see us kind of capitalizing on that as well. It's just interesting that most rain games do kind of consolidate what you see. And since the Niners have so much skill on offense now, and they're utilizing that to its pinnacle level, I think it kind of hinders how many points that they're probably going to score. I'm not worried about Brock Purdy in the rain. I mean, he played for Iowa State for forever, and so I'm sure he saw some bad weather games up there. So I'm not really too worried about that. But it just seems like it does make a lot of games really close together, right? I mean, I know it was a monsoon in Chicago, but that was a team that you're supposed to handily beat, and you're supposed to be up in that game early, and to where you could have coasted in the fourth quarter in that monsoon instead of playing from behind. So anything can happen when it rains like that. You get down to the 10-yard line, ball slips out. You get down, you try to go for an interception to seal the game, and you drop it because the ball's wet. So, anything can happen there. I think that we are the much better team, and I don't think we'll be hampered too much by it. But I do think it makes it more of a coin flip, not a coin flip, but more of a game that's consolidated. You're muted. You're muted.
I had a loud truck go by and I was like, that exhaust will make it through. And then I can't get my words out. So that'll teach me to mute myself. So yeah, it is absolutely a situation where I think it's going to tend to keep it a little bit closer. That just tends to be what happens in those rain games, to your point, Randon. And the 49ers have struggled in some rain games this year. Someone also pointed out on the last show I was on, hey, it rained in Mexico City. The 49ers handled that with grace. So maybe they've figured it out. Maybe Brock Purdy isn't going to be impacted by it. I feel as though this game is closer than the 9.5-point spread that Vegas has out there. And yet I actually have them winning by more than 9.5. So I'm not taking that bet. If I'm in Vegas, I'm not laying a bet on the Niners with that point spread. It just, the rain feels too unpredictable. Things can go either way in it. To me, it doesn't make the game a coin flip, but it makes what happens in the game a coin flip. Because if it weren't for the rain, I would feel very secure in taking the Niners to win with that point spread, giving up the 9.5 points. I would feel okay about it. But what happens in the rain is what we're hearing about here. Raphael 562 Niners talking about they need to play disciplined football. Yes, it becomes a closer game. One or two key penalties can be the difference. Turnovers. It's a wet game. So turnovers become key. If we cause turnovers, we feel good. If we throw an interception, fumble the ball because it's wet, all of a sudden you go from a game where you should win, one or two things don't go your way, and now all of a sudden it is closer. So I believe that the rain favors Seattle, and I don't think it'll be enough for them to overcome. Now, we've both just agreed that the rain makes this a closer game. When I was going through and looking at the Seattle Seahawks, they are not a very complete team, right? They're middle of the pack, but where they are good is special teams. And we've seen a couple of key instances of special teams making the difference in games against the Seattle Seahawks. This special teams unit is ranked 4th overall. So they are definitely a quality special teams. The 49ers, not a bad special teams unit, but of our three phases of football, you could argue that it is the weakest, although it is performing well this season. Do you have any fears that if we're in a close game, Seattle could pull something with special teams that might be the difference in this one?
I don't have a fear of it. I just think that you look at, if I was trying to, if I was a Seahawks fan, I was trying to say, hey, how are we going to win this game?
Yes.
Is regulate field position, which is what special teams does. Try to capitalize on any turnovers that may happen and keep this game within a punching chance in the fourth quarter. Because then you have an opportunity to make some plays, right? Especially with the rain. Special teams is going to play into that, right? Having field position, making Brock Purdy drive 80 yards, 85 yards in the game to score every single time in the rain. It's not going to be easy, right? And if their offense can keep the turnovers to a minimum, you're looking at making the Niners drive a long distance in the weather every single time to score points. And that's going to keep them within a puncher's chance of this one, because, you look at the Niners have been relatively good this year from what I remember. I don't have the stats in front of me on converting on turnovers. So the defense gets a turnover, scoring points off that. I think we've been I know we've been a whole lot better than last season, but I don't know where we rank nationally. I didn't look up that stat before coming on, but it seems like it, based on just my memory, that it seems like we score quite a bit of the time off of these turnovers. And so I think that the Seattle is going to have to use the special teams to kind of keep us regulated and make us drive the distance almost every single time.
And I do think that the 49ers have a quality special teams unit, right? They are constantly getting opponents to get a touchback starting at the 25. It's definitely helped us in the field position game, playing complementary football with our defense. Ray McLeod has been phenomenal. I love G-Bone Patron coming in to call that out. Ray wants to break one every freaking kickoff. It's so true. The guy runs so hard on punt returns, kickoff returns, you name it. Robbie Gould is looking phenomenal. Mitch Wishnowsky, obviously a Pro Bowler, pinning people inside the 10 consistently. So I feel good about it, but I do think Pete Carroll's going to pull out all the stops. He has nothing to lose in this one. He is favored to lose by 9.5 points if you listen to Vegas. I think we could see some trick plays. Historically, we have not been ready for those. But now we actually have Brian Schneider, who knows a little bit of Pete Carroll's tricks because he was there with Pete Carroll making those tricks happen. So it's one that I'll have my eye out for. I just hope that the 49ers and their their special teams unit are ready to handle that. I do want to say thanks for the love. Fazil coming in to show a little love for Rob and Randon. Absolutely. All right. So, yes, I believe that our special teams will be able to hold off Seattle. I don't think special teams will be the difference, but it is something to watch. Another area of the game that we've got to have our eyes on. This one is the biggest here, but it is those Seattle wide receivers against our secondary. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett versus Mooney Ward, Jimmy Ward, and Diamador Lenore. The Ward brothers and Lenore. I know I just have Ward and Lenore in there, but it actually looking at week 15, when we last played the Seahawks, you had DK Metcalf matched up pretty consistently, almost exclusively against Mooney Ward. It was mano-a-mano. It was very physical. Mooney got in his head. It was a thing of beauty. Instead of having Tyler Lockett over there on Diamador Lenore, he plays primarily out of the slot. And so you actually had the advantage for the Niners in that allows Jimmy Ward to play over Tyler Lockett, holding both of them pretty effectively in that one. Do you believe that the Seahawks find a way in which to try and pick on the weaker link out of those three in Diamador Lenore? And does that concern you at all within these matchups?
I know it's been quite recent. There's been like one or two plays, whether it be Hufanga or Lenore. You can't have all pros at every single position, right? So it is what it is, and that's what Shanahan does. He uses the rules of defense against the defense. What you're supposed to do, what you're trained to do against you, to score points. And I think you have two receivers in Metcalf and Lockett that, in my opinion, are better than Lenore. Is DeMeco Ryans going to be able to scheme up things and kind of protect the kid? But sometimes you're just one-on-one on an island, right? I mean, you have and you have to make a play. I assume, depending on how bad the weather is, I mean, if it's wet and not rain, if it's wet but not windy, I mean, you're going to see a couple throws downfield one-on-one, right? Where you're going to have that thing. I think Ward would probably, follow Metcalf around, and so it's going to be up to Lockett, which, he's caught a deep ball or two in his career. So
yes, he has. So
I think they will. I mean, you have to target the weak part of the defense, and right now that is Lenore for the Niners.
I think so as well, because I look at the other matchups and I think the 49ers are going to be able to hold serve. I look at the matchup of DK Metcalf going against Mooney Ward. I think Mooney continues to get the better of him. I believe that ends up frustrating DK Metcalf throughout. I think we see another physical altercation, a little scuffle going on between them. And quite honestly, I want to put this out for you as well. If I set the over-under at 1/2 of an unnecessary roughness or unsportsmanlike conduct penalty between those two, are you taking the under? Do they have a clean game? Or between the two, does one of them commit an unsportsmanlike conduct or unnecessary roughness penalty in this one?
I'll take the over. I mean, it's going to be wet.
I am too.
Yeah.
I think You could have put it at 1.5, and I might have said the over. This feels like such a physical matchup, and they were so pissed at one another the last time. But Mooney feels like he's able to stay cool, calm, and collected, and really just rattled DK in the last one. I've been so impressed with Mooney Ward this season, his attitude and his play on the field. Do you consider that Jimmy Ward will continue to get the better of Tyler Lockett in this one as well?
I think Lenore is going to have to play, and if Jimmy Ward, if he's lined up in the slot, I think you're looking. The safeties have played pretty good, and I mean, I know Hufanga has been aggressive, and he might have to be less aggressive, but you don't want to take the aggressiveness out. I think they're going to take their shots. I mean, and it's been one play, pretty much a game where it's been that for any team, right? But yeah, Jimmy Ward is a trash talker too, like that.
Yeah, Jimmy Ward is phenomenal, especially off the field. I wonder what he's like on the field, but on Instagram and all that, yeah, he talks next level trash.
I mean, you just think about it. If it's wet out there and you're losing and you haven't got going and you can't get the football and it's the third time losing to a team, like you're gonna get flustered, you're gonna get upset, and I can see it happening.
Especially when you're getting jammed real physically at the line each freaking time. He is just in your face consistently. That feels like a huge matchup and potentially the one that decides this game. But I do want to get in what you believe to be some of these key matchups. We'll go back and forth just a little bit on what you think is going to be a factor in this game, in deciding the outcome, things to watch, key matchups. What are the big ones for you going into Saturday?
What game's going to be the run game? Which run game can get going? You got Kenneth Walker on one side. The Niners have one of the best run defenses in the NFL. They are getting all healthy at the right time, which is great.
Right.
So that'll be a big one. If they can hold them down and if you make any team one-dimensional, that's going to benefit you, rain or shine. And so I think it's going to start to help them there. And then we have to get the run game going. I mean, right. Whether it's with McCaffrey, whether it's with Mitchell or Ty Davis Price or Jordan Mason, it doesn't really matter to me. You got to get it going. You got to get it going early. And you got to punch somebody in the mouth, and try to break that will for the other team as early as possible. And I think that's going to be a big matchup there. And then Shanahan I think Shanahan needs to have a really good game. He needs to put Brock Purdy in a great position to win. He needs to scheme up stuff for his playmakers to make plays, early. With the Yak Bros, as we call them here.
Yeah.
He's probably not going to be throwing the ball a lot downfield. So how are you going to scheme up your team to catch the ball within the first 5 yards and get some quality yardage there? And I think those are going to probably be the two key matchups, because I think if our offense handles business, this game isn't close. Like, I think it's only if I think it's only if we start faltering or fumbling or whatever because of the rain.
Or to your point, if Kenneth Walker comes out and he's averaging 4, 5, 6 yards carry, this is going to be a long afternoon, right? That changes the game entirely. If the Niners, for some reason, are unable to stop the run, and you would anticipate that Pete Carroll is absolutely going to try and get his run game going, whether it is taking some deep shots first to try and push the defense back to have to cover that and then opening it up underneath with a run game. But that feels like one of the biggest keys to this game. If we shut down the run against Seattle, as our defense, to your point, has been able to do fairly consistently throughout the season, regardless of opponents. I mean, Josh Jacobs had a good game against us, but still did not crest 100 yards as the rushing leader for the NFL. So I could see this defense holding taut against that. And then the other way around, when you talk about getting going, what was your second one again? Refresh my memory. I had it and then I lost it.
Kyle Shanahan scheming and putting Brock Purdy in a position to win by scheming up some plays.
Yes, the yak. That's what I was going to tee off on. So the yak is key in this one. The 49ers obviously have the yak bros, and Seattle is the worst in the league at allowing yards after the catch. So I think that you've nailed two of those. I go into this believing a couple of things. On the show with Jack, I called out, hey, it's Shanahan versus Pete Carroll. And you're alluding to that a little bit with your last selection there as well. I think Pete Carroll's going to have his guys fired up and ready to run through brick fucking walls for him, ready to die on that field. He just has a magical way about him to get guys to play. He did it throughout this season. Kyle Shanahan needs to have his guys up at the same level. And it probably falls on other personalities on the 49ers. It is George Kittle. It is Trent Williams. It is Deebo Samuel. It's not so much Kyle Shanahan, but he needs to instill that mindset as well. And then I look at a few other key matchups that are out there, whether it's the offensive line or Geno Smith against Nick Bosa and the Gold Rush, the 49ers pass rush. They tried to get the ball out quick in the last two matchups, and yet the 49ers had 45 total pressures in those two games against Seattle. That is absurd. If we can continue to do that, it is absolutely huge. I think we will rattle Geno Smith. We'll contain that run, and I believe that we will be able to hold Seattle to a minimal output on offense. Are you feeling pretty good about how this defense is going to respond, how they're going to get after Geno Smith?
I do. I think that you look at, the San Francisco 49ers were the number one team in turnover differential this year. And so I think they need to set the tone early and often and get to them, get them rattled. Because if you make that team one-dimensional, then the pass rush can tee off. Then you get sloppy throws for interceptions, those types of things. And if you get to the quarterback in a wet game, that ball is a lot harder to hold on to. Like you're going to see some stuff that come out and so I think, it's a huge, the defensive line is going to be huge for the Niners there. And I think they will be able to continue that.
I absolutely agree. Nicky D wants 40 carries between CMC, Mitchell, and Mason, looking like the 91 Hogs with Riggs, Irvins, and Ernest Biner. Talk about running it down their throats. And Jason Walsh pointing out, hey, don't forget about Third and Jawan. Third and Jawan is amazing. Tell me about it. All right. There's one last matchup that I want to get your opinion on, and that is Brock Purdy versus the playoffs. It is obvious that he has passed every test in front of him to this point. It doesn't matter whether you're an astute quarterback guru or just someone who watches football on occasion. You can see that Purdy is got the skills to perform at this level. And now we get into the playoffs. Rookies tend to feel a little bit of this pressure. I think Brock Purdy is a little bit different, and I wonder how he will react. What does your gut tell you as to just how ready for the playoffs Brock Purdy is, given his mental makeup and what we have seen of him to this point?
I think the kid's like as confident as you could possibly be at this point. Like the team's behind him, the fan base is behind him. I'm seeing people buy Purdy jerseys like already. And so it's like, and so, like, he knows that. Like, you think – I don't even think even an opening drive turnover would be something that sways him. Like, I think that he is that locked in. Will it be that way, like, the entire playoffs? We'll see. But I have full confidence in this kid. Like, there's not a doubt in my mind that he's going to come to play. Like, he's going to come prepared. He's going to come to play. He's not going to be afraid of the moment. Will it be that way for maybe, further down the line if we get that far? Remains to be seen. But an afternoon game on a Saturday afternoon in San Francisco, I don't think so. I think he'll be
at home against the lesser opponent, someone he's played at this point. There should be some things that go into comfort, and he looks like the type of player that is not easily rattled. Taking those factors together, I also feel like he is going to handle this test yet again. Nicky D's got a plan for it. He says ease Purdy into a first couple of throws, then let him rip one deep off a play action to blow the roof off the place. Sorry, you were saying, Randon?
Yeah, I think that this is the perfect opponent for the first for the playoff game for him. Right? Could you imagine like I know he did fine against Tom Brady, and he was. But he did say, like, hey, I grew up watching this kid, like watching Tom Brady. He was an idol of mine and all this kind of stuff like that. And like to go across and like shake his hand was like kind of, was crazy. Like, do you think like that maybe would have been harder for him to play Aaron Rodgers, another MVP across the side, somebody who he's never met in person, the mystique of the Packers coming in here, like versus a team he's already played? It's Geno Smith. Like he's not. Like it's not going to be the storyline's not going to be Purdy versus Geno Smith like nationally.
No,
right?
It is not at all.
It's going to be, can the Seahawks come in and take apart this defense, right?
Yes.
But if he was playing against Aaron Rodgers, or maybe even like a Dak Prescott or a Jalen Hurts, like you're going to have that narrative like, hey, can Purdy stack up to these other quarterbacks?
Right. It would be like the way in which the NFL is selling the Chargers versus Jaguars game, right? They have a picture of Lawrence and what's his name? The guy that I'm a big fan of, Herbert. Yes. That would be how they sell it. And if the 49ers come up against Tom Brady, the NFL will have a field day selling that matchup yet again. And you could argue that with that short week that transpired then and it being so new for Brock Purdy, he maybe didn't even have a chance to think about how significant that was. Leading into the playoffs, it will be a little bit different. I have faith, though. I do believe that Brock is ready for this moment. And that takes us into our last topic here, talking about the game prediction. I called it out already, but the last time these two teams squared off in the playoffs was that fateful game to end the 2013 season. It was in January of 2014. Yours truly was there in Seattle near the 50-yard line, getting peanuts tossed at the back of my head because I was a 49ers fan, hearing that dreaded Seahawks chant. Can we repay the favor this time around and send Seattle frickin' packing?
I think we will, and I think I'm going 25-13 is what I'm going to put out there.
25-13. We have very similar scores in this one. I believe that Purdy will be the first rookie to win a playoff game since Russell Wilson. I love that tie-in of beating the Seattle Seahawks and being the first rookie to win a playoff game since Russell Wilson. I've got the 49ers 23, Seattle 10. I'm saying it's only close because of weather, and I do believe it will be a one-score game for the most part. And towards the end, the Niners will rack up one more touchdown, making it feel less close, covering that spread. But again, if I were in Vegas, I would not be betting that spread right now because I could see it staying close. We've got some predictions in the chat. If you want to put yours in there, type them in now. The greatest 49 sneakerhead here on the channel says 31-10 Niners, a little blowout, blowing them out by 21 points. I love it. I would rest easy. NYCE 1030, very close to your own there, Randon. Niners 27, Seattle 13. Nikki D coming in, Niners 31, Seattle 16. Fazil 24-13, Niners. Oregon Life representing, just saying love your show. Love your support, much appreciated. G-Bone Patron 28-10. San Francisco Amateur Draft Scout 30-19. Rob to Art 27-13. J-Mart 31-13. Man, Peter Lee 31-13. We got a lot of 31-13s here. Beast Mode Gaming 21-7. And Van the Man 37-16. I want to know if someone gets it right on, come back on the show post-game, celebrate that when you correctly guess it. Again, I got Niners 23, Seahawks 10. I still have to decide if I'm making it down there. You know what? Either way, I'm going to have a phenomenal game day. Do you have big plans for where you are watching this out there in Texas, my friend?
I will be working.
That is a shame. I'm guessing you'll have an earpiece in. You'll be with some customer who's like, yeah, I'm hoping you could throw on the undercoat. You'll be like, yes, Christian McCaffrey.
The game will be on in the showroom. We have a TV out there, so
that's critical.
It'll be on. I will be passing off customers left and right unless I have to take one. Looking up the weather here right now, just kind of checking in on it. Looks like all the heavy rain is going to be between 7 and 10. It's going to die down a little bit, but not enough to where it's still not going to be present. And the wind is going to pick up to 18 miles an hour right at game time as well. So it might be pretty bad to where this game might be closer than a lot of people think, but we'll see. We'll see if the team can get through this dirty game with a W.
Yes, that's all. Hey, that is all that matters. That's all that matters in the regular season, but that is definitely all that matters in the playoffs.
I don't care if the game is 9-6. Like if we get a W, let's
don't give it. It could be 2-0. Let's get a safety and just shut them out the entire time. We've got Raphael 5629er saying, great show, gentlemen. Appreciate it. If you like the show, hit that like button, subscribe. Make sure that you get down into the details down below the description of the video. There are links to Randon as well, so that you can follow him on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and follow along with the Hockey Royalty podcast. G-Bone Patron comes in to ask the important question. Hey, if I get that score right, is it worth a mug, Rob? I will tell you what, if we are in the playoffs, you're goddamn right it is. If you are the only person who guessed that score and you got it correct and you show up in the postgame to celebrate having gotten the correct score, my man Rob right here is going to mail you out a mug. Now, if you were one of the 3113 guys, I apologize. There were too many people that had that. I don't have that many mugs. I can't mail that many out to you. If you were the one and only, then yes, absolutely. I'll have to come back and watch this stream again to double check it. Dan coming in 28-14 Niners. That might be the only 28-14 score there. So we shall see. I'm excited for this one, Randon. I can't wait to do a post game. I'm going to be on tomorrow doing a Sneakerhead call-in show at 5 o'clock tomorrow, Friday. So Sneakerheads, get to calling in. We got one last super chat before we close this one out. I couldn't agree more with Van the Man. It's been a great show. Randon and I are always cooking. Jason, PDSI, with the super chat. This game terrifies me. 10 straight wins. Lots of good press around the quarterback and the defense against an opponent we already beat twice. Feels like a trap game to me. It does feel like a trap game. It won't be a trap game. This is the playoffs. You have players within the 49ers talking about getting that second wind. You have veterans that know what it's like to be in a playoff atmosphere. I understand this fear. I understand it, and I don't have it myself. I think the 49ers come out and show us that they are ready to get back to the promised land. Do you have any fears about this, Randon?
Nope.
Hey, no fears. We've got people coming in to restate the scores that they had. Now that they know a mug is on the line, first of all, Van's like, hey, man, don't drop the mug. Last time I dropped the mug, it actually ended up with us beating the Packers in the playoffs. So that was okay. That turned out to be a good thing. Maybe I should have dropped another mug the next game. Roberto Davis coming in says there's no such thing as a trap game in the playoffs. This is the goal. Playoffs and chips. We got Rafael predicting 150 all-purpose for CMC. I'm loving this, Randon. I'm so excited. We need to get to Saturday already. I will be on tomorrow at 5. Randon, thank you so much for joining me. It is always a pleasure, my friend.
Always a pleasure, my man.
Yes, indeed. My nerves are shot as well. Until next time, I'll be back tomorrow. You guys know the drill. Cheers, faithful.